I sat in my cramped kitchen at 11:47 that Tuesday night, staring at the legal document that just shattered my world completely. The will was crystal clear. My parents left their entire estate to my younger brother Daniel. $400,000 house, $60,000 classic car collection, every penny of savings. For 8 years, I had paid their mortgage-covered medical bills, handled emergency repairs totaling over $70,000 of my hard-earned money. Daniel lived in California, visited once yearly, if we were lucky. This betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound ever could. The legal papers felt like sandpaper against my trembling fingers as I read through the devastating details again. 8 years of sacrifice. 8 years of putting my parents first while my own life crumbled around me. Sarah had packed her bags last spring, taking our shared dreams with her when I spent our vacation fund on Mom's emergency surgery. "You care more about them than us," she had said, tears streaming down her face as she loaded her car. I thought she was wrong then. Now I wasn't so sure. My phone buzzed against the wooden table. Marcus, my oldest friend from high school, probably calling to check on me after the lawyer meeting. "Hey man, how did it go with your folks' attorney?" "They left everything to Daniel." I managed to say, my voice cracking like a teenager's. "What, that's impossible? You've been their lifeline for years." I walked to my bathroom mirror, studying the exhaustion etched into my 32-year-old face. Dark circles rimmed my eyes from countless sleepless nights, worrying about their finances. Gray streaks had appeared in my brown hair sometime last winter, though I couldn't pinpoint exactly when. Apparently not impossible enough. "Bert, listen to me. I was in Vegas last month for a work conference, and I swear I saw Daniel at the Bellagio. He was throwing around serious money at the blackjack tables, driving some fancy new truck. This was right around when he told your parents he was broke and needed help with rent." My stomach twisted into knots. "You're absolutely certain it was him?" "Positive. Same cocky smile. Same way of talking too loud when he drinks. He was bragging to some woman about his investment strategies and how he was about to come into some serious money." I sank onto my couch processing this information. Daniel had called our parents just 3 weeks ago, claiming his construction business was failing and he might lose his apartment. Dad had asked me to wire him $2,000 immediately. I had canceled my own truck repairs to send that money. "Marcus, I need to see something." I grabbed my laptop and pulled up Daniel's social media account, something I rarely bothered checking. The photos made my blood boil. Pictures from Cabo last month. A brand new Ford F-150 parked in front of some expensive-looking condo. Restaurant bills that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. And the dates matched perfectly with his supposed financial crisis. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of lies. Skiing in Colorado while telling our parents he couldn't afford winter clothes. 5-star hotel rooms while claiming he was sleeping on friends' couches. Every image was a slap in the face, a reminder of how thoroughly I had been played. I called Daniel immediately, not caring about the time difference. Well, if it isn't my generous big brother," he answered. After 4 rings, his voice slurred with alcohol or arrogance. "Calling to congratulate me on my inheritance? You manipulative piece of garbage. I know about Vegas. I know about the truck. I know about every lie you've been feeding Mom and Dad." Daniel laughed a sound that made my skin crawl. "Oh, Bert. Sweet, naive Bert. I played the game better than you. While you were being the perfect little Boy Scout, I was securing my future. Mom and Dad needed someone who knew how to plan ahead, not someone who just throws money at problems. Plan ahead, you've been bleeding them dry while I kept them afloat. And now you understand the difference between being smart and being used. They chose the son who promised them security in their old age, not the one who made them feel like charity cases. You told them you were broke. I told them what they needed to hear to make the right choice. Face it, big brother. You were naive to expect anything different. Mom and Dad always loved me more, and now they've proved it legally. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. 28 years of brotherhood reduced to a calculated con game. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out the shoebox, where I kept every thank you card my parents had sent over the years. Dozens of them, each one praising my generosity and expressing gratitude for my support. "We don't know what we'd do without you," Mom had written just 6 months ago. "You're our blessing," Dad had added in his shaky handwriting. I sat on my bedroom floor and read through them all, each card, now feeling like evidence of my own stupidity. Had they been planning this betrayal, even while writing these words? Had every expression of gratitude been preparation for this ultimate deception? By 3 in the morning, I had torn every single card into tiny pieces. The confetti of false appreciation covered my carpet like snow, and I felt something fundamental shift inside my chest. The grief was transforming into something harder, colder, more decisive. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, knocked on my door the next evening holding a casserole dish and wearing the concerned expression of someone who had news to share. "Bert, honey, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I couldn't help overhearing your mother on her porch yesterday. She was talking to your brother on the phone." I invited her inside, suddenly very interested in Mrs. Patterson's talent for accidentally overhearing conversations. She told him, "Bert will understand he's always been the responsible one. He'll keep helping us, regardless of what the will says." And then she laughed, Bert. She actually laughed and said, "We get the best of both worlds this way." The casserole dish slipped from my hands, shattering against my kitchen floor. Glass fragments scattered everywhere, but I barely noticed. The pain in my chest had expanded into something that made it difficult to breathe. That night, I made the decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and canceled every automatic payment I had set up for my parents' bills. 8 years of financial support ended with a few clicks. Then I sent them both a text message. "As of today, I will no longer be contributing to your household expenses. Daniel can handle everything now. Good luck." I turned off my phone without waiting for replies and went to bed for the first time in months without worrying about anyone else's problems but my own. 3 weeks after cutting off my financial support, my phone started ringing constantly with numbers I didn't recognize. The first call came during my lunch break at the auto shop, where I worked as a senior technician. "Is this Bert Henderson, baby now, sir?" The voice belonged to a professional woman who sounded stressed. "Depends on who's asking. This is Jennifer Walsh from First National Credit Union. We've been trying to reach Harold and Eleanor Henderson regarding their overdue mortgage payments. You're listed as an emergency contact." My sandwich suddenly tasted like cardboard. "I'm their son, but I don't handle their finances anymore. Sir, they're 3 months behind on payments totaling $8,400. We've sent multiple notices with no response. Foreclosure proceedings begin next Monday unless the full amount is paid immediately." 3 months behind. That meant they had stopped paying the mortgage before they even changed their will. While I was covering their car repairs and medical bills, they were deliberately letting their house payments slide, probably assuming I would eventually notice and fix that too. "You'll need to contact their other son, Daniel. He's handling their financial affairs now." We've tried reaching Daniel Henderson repeatedly. The phone number they provided appears to be disconnected. Of course it was. Daniel had probably changed his number the moment he realized the inheritance came with actual responsibilities. That afternoon, I received calls from the electric company, the gas company, and a medical billing office. Each conversation revealed the same pattern: months of unpaid bills, promises of family support that never materialized, and my name listed as the person to contact when everything fell apart. The most revealing call came from Janet Rodriguez, a loan officer at Midwest Financial Partners. "Mr. Henderson, I'm calling about the home equity loans your parents have taken out over the past 4 years. The combined balance is now $137,000, and they've missed the last 2 payments. Home equity loans, plural. Yes, sir. 3 separate loans against the property. The first was for $45,000 in June 2019. The second for $38,000 in March 2021 and the most recent for $54,000 just last December. My head started spinning. That was more than twice what I thought the house was worth. What did they tell you the money was for? Business investments for their son Daniel. They provided documentation showing his construction company needed capital for large contracts. I asked Janet to email me the loan documents immediately. Within an hour, I was staring at forged business plans, fake contracts, and financial projections that would have impressed Hollywood special effects artists with their creativity. Daniel hadn't just manipulated our parents emotionally. He had orchestrated an elaborate financial fraud spanning years. The house that was supposed to be worth $400,000 was actually mortgaged to the hilt and worth maybe $200,000 in its current condition. Daniel's inheritance was nothing but debt wrapped in legal paperwork. I drove to my parents' house that evening, something I hadn't done since the will reading. The yard looked tired and overgrown with paint peeling from the shutters and several roof shingles missing. This wasn't the well-maintained family home I remembered. This was a property in decline, reflecting the financial chaos hidden inside. Mom answered the door, wearing a bathrobe at 6 in the evening, her gray hair unwashed and her face puffy from crying. "Bert, thank God you're here. We need to talk." Dad sat in his recliner, staring blankly at a television that wasn't turned on. He looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of their situation had physically diminished him. "Dad, are you feeling all right?" "He's been confused lately," Mom said quickly. "The stress of everything." I sat across from them in the living room, where I'd opened Christmas presents as a child, where I had celebrated birthdays and graduations, where I had believed we were a normal, loving family. "Mom, I know about the loans, all of them." Her face crumpled like a paper bag. "We didn't know what else to do. Daniel said his business was going to make us all rich. He showed us contracts, projected profits. It seemed so real." "Did it seem real when he was posting pictures from expensive vacations while claiming to be broke?" "We don't understand all that computer stuff. Daniel said those pictures were old or from work trips." Dad suddenly looked up with clarity in his eyes that hadn't been there moments before. "Son, I tried to change the will back last month when I started understanding what Daniel was really doing. But your mother said it was too late." Mom shot Dad a look that could have melted steel. "Harold, you're confused. You agreed to everything." I remember trying to call the lawyer. I remember wanting to fix this, but the phone calls never seemed to go through. A chill ran down my spine as I realized what Dad was suggesting. Mom hadn't just failed to stop Daniel's manipulation. She had actively participated in it. "Eleanor, did you prevent Dad from contacting the lawyer?" "That's ridiculous. He's been having memory problems. Sometimes he gets confused about what he wants." But Dad's eyes were clear now, more focused than I had seen them in months. "Bert, I want you to know I never wanted to cut you out. I tried to fix it." I looked around the house with new understanding. The valuable antique furniture was gone, replaced with cheap imitations. Dad's prized collection of vintage fishing equipment had disappeared from the den. Even Mom's jewelry box, which used to contain her grandmother's pearls, sat conspicuously empty on her dresser. "Where are Dad's classic cars?" "Sold," Mom whispered. "Last year to pay for the medical bills." "What medical bills?" "I paid for Dad's surgery and your treatments. Other things, tests, procedures." But I was already walking toward the garage, knowing what I would find. 3 cars sat under tarps, but when I pulled the covers away, they were obvious reproductions. Cheap fiberglass bodies painted to look like vintage Mustangs, and Camaros worth maybe $5,000 total instead of the $60,000 the will claimed. "How long have you known the cars were worthless?" Mom couldn't meet my eyes. "Daniel said it didn't matter because you would keep supporting us anyway. He said the will was just paperwork, that you'd never abandon us." "And what did you think would happen when I found out?" "We thought you'd understand. We thought you'd realize we were just scared old people trying to survive." I walked back inside where Dad was trying to remember something important. His forehead wrinkled with concentration. There's something else, son. That lawyer Thomas Wagner, he came here twice, trying to explain why the will changes were a bad idea. He said something about your mother signing papers when I was taking my medications. Mom's face went white. Harold, you signed everything yourself. Did I? I remember being very tired. I remember you guiding my hand. The pieces were falling into place now. Mom hadn't just allowed Daniel to manipulate them. She had forged Dad's signatures while his dementia medications left him vulnerable. She had orchestrated this entire betrayal while accepting my financial support and thanking me for my generosity. As I drove home that night, my phone rang with a call from Daniel. Well, big brother, I hear you've been visiting the folks, getting sentimental about your lost inheritance. Actually, I was calculating how much debt you've left them with. Congratulations, you've inherited a financial disaster. What are you talking about? The house is mortgaged for more than it's worth. The cars are worthless fakes. Every valuable item has been sold. Your inheritance is negative $100,000, assuming you can even stop the foreclosure. For the first time in our conversation, Daniel sounded uncertain. That's impossible. Mom said the house was paid off. Mom said a lot of things that weren't true. Enjoy your new debt, Daniel. You played yourself. I hung up and smiled for the first time in weeks. The text message arrived at 7:36 on a Thursday morning while I was eating breakfast and preparing for another day at the auto shop. No greeting, no acknowledgement of our situation, no attempt at politeness. Just 5 words that revealed everything about my mother's character. The mortgage is due. I stared at the message for several minutes, marveling at the audacity. After weeks of silence, after discovering their lies and manipulation, after learning about the forged signatures and fake business investments, this was how she chose to reestablish contact, like a landlord demanding rent from a tenant who had never signed a lease. I typed my response carefully, savoring each word. I'm sure Daniel will handle it. After all, he's inheriting everything. My phone rang immediately. Don't you dare play games with me, Bert Henderson. Your father is sick and we're about to lose our home. Funny thing about that, Mom, I spoke with 3 different creditors yesterday. Turns out you've been lying about Dad's condition to take out loans. Turns out you've been forging his signature on documents. Turns out your beloved Daniel has been bleeding you dry while I kept you afloat. You don't understand the whole situation. Then explain it right now, every detail. There was a long pause. Then Mom said something that made my blood run cold. Meet me at Murphy's coffee shop on Main Street in an hour. I have something to show you. Murphy's was our old family meeting place where we had celebrated my high school graduation and discussed my college plans. Where Mom had once told me she was proud of the man I had become. The irony wasn't lost on me as I sat across from her in the same corner booth watching her fumble with her phone. I need you to understand that everything I did was to protect this family. She placed her phone on the table and pressed play on an audio recording. Daniel's voice filled the small space between us, loud and clear, and absolutely damning. Come on, Mom. You know I'm never moving back to that dead-end town. I'm not taking care of you guys when you get old and decrepit. The only way this works is if I get the house and the money up front, then I can maybe send you something monthly. Maybe. Another voice on the recording, Dad's weak but coherent. But what about Bert? He's been supporting us for years. Daniel's laughter was cruel and sharp. Bert's a sucker. He'll keep paying your bills whether he inherits anything or not. That's just who he is. We might as well take advantage of that. But it doesn't seem fair. Fair, Dad, life isn't fair. I'm the one with business sense. I'm the one who knows how to make money grow. Bert just fixes cars and pays bills. Give me the inheritance, and I'll turn it into something that actually provides for your future. Mom's voice came next, and you'll visit more often. Sure, Mom. Once I get established with the new capital, I'll have more time for family visits. Promise me, Daniel. Promise me you'll take care of us. I promise. Just get the lawyer to change the will and everything will work out perfectly for everyone. Mom stopped the recording and stared at me expectantly. You see, I had to protect us from him. I had to make sure someone would still care. So you manipulated both of your sons instead of just one? I made sure we'd survive. Daniel gets his inheritance and disappears, but you keep helping because that's who you are. The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope and coldness. She had recorded hours of conversations with Daniel, documenting his selfishness and greed, not to protect Dad or herself, but to use as leverage against me. She had planned this entire scenario give Daniel everything he wanted to keep him temporarily happy, then use evidence of his betrayal to guilt me back into financial support. How many recordings do you have? Dozens. Phone calls, video chats, text messages. Everything proving that Daniel never intended to support us financially. And you thought you'd blackmail me with evidence of what I already knew. Mom's confident expression wavered. I thought you'd want justice. I thought you'd want to punish him by continuing to help us. Did it occur to you that I might want justice against both of you? Before she could answer, Dad appeared in the coffee shop doorway, looking confused and agitated. He spotted us and shuffled over to our table, his movements unsteady, but his eyes surprisingly sharp. Eleanor, what are you doing? I told you not to show him those recordings. Harold, go wait in the car. The adults are talking. I am an adult, Eleanor. I'm your husband of 38 years, and I'm telling you to stop manipulating our son. Dad sat down heavily beside me, reaching out to squeeze my shoulder with a trembling hand. Bert, she's been recording everything for months. Not just Daniel, but you too, and me and the lawyers. She's been planning something, but I can't figure out what. My stomach dropped. She has recordings of you paying bills, promising to help with emergencies, talking about your financial struggles. She's been building some kind of case. Mom's face flushed red. I was protecting our family's interests. No, Eleanor. You were manipulating everyone to get what you wanted, and what you wanted was control. A woman approached our table, middle-aged, with kind eyes and a professional manner. Excuse me, are you the Henderson family? Depends who's asking, I said, suddenly wary. I'm Linda Chen, a social worker with Adult Protective Services. We've received reports of potential financial elder abuse in your family. Dad's face lit up with recognition and relief. Linda, thank goodness. I was hoping someone would investigate this situation. Mom grabbed Dad's arm roughly. Harold, don't say anything stupid. Mrs. Henderson, please don't restrain your husband. Mr. Henderson, you filed a report about concerns regarding your financial arrangements. I tried to. I called your office last month, but Eleanor said she talked to someone and cleared up the misunderstanding. Linda Chen pulled out a small notebook. We have no record of any contact from Mrs. Henderson. However, we do have reports from neighbors about arguments, manipulation, and possible document fraud. I looked around the coffee shop and noticed Mrs. Patterson sitting at a table near the window, nursing a cup of tea and occasionally glancing our way. Mrs. Patterson filed the report, I said. Mrs. Patterson was one of several concerned citizens who contacted our office. Mr. Henderson, your wife, has been making some very serious decisions about your finances without your full understanding or consent. Mom stood up abruptly. This is harassment. We're leaving. Actually, Mrs. Henderson, I need to inform you that we'll be conducting a formal investigation into allegations of financial elder abuse and document fraud. I would recommend you contact an attorney. As Linda Chen handed Mom her business card, Mom's final manipulation came pouring out in a desperate rush. If you abandon us now, Bert, I'll kill myself. I swear to God I'll take every pill in the medicine cabinet and end this nightmare. Is that what you want to be responsible for your mother's death? The coffee shop went silent. Every customer turned to stare at our table, witnessing the final collapse of my family's facade. Dad reached across the table and gently took Mom's hand. Eleanor, we need help. Real help. Not manipulation, not schemes, not threats. Just honest help from people who care about our well-being. And maybe, I added quietly, It's time we all started being honest about what kind of family we really are. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years and drove to the office of Patricia Stone, the estate attorney Marcus had recommended. Her office was located in a renovated Victorian house downtown with polished hardwood floors and law books lining every wall. She reviewed my documents with the focused intensity of a surgeon examining X-rays. Mr. Henderson, these signatures don't match your father's usual writing patterns, especially considering the dates when they were supposedly signed. See here. She pointed to several spots on the will paperwork. The hand tremor that appears in his medical records from this time period isn't present in these signatures. They're too smooth, too controlled. So Mom definitely forged them. That's a question for handwriting experts and prosecutors, but based on my experience with elder abuse cases, this shows classic signs of financial exploitation. However, the good news is that if your father was suffering from diminished mental capacity during these signings, the will changes might be invalid regardless of who actually signed the documents. Patricia explained that under Illinois law, any will changes made by someone with dementia or under medication-induced confusion could be challenged successfully in probate court. She also mentioned that the recordings Mom had played for me might actually work in our favor, proving Daniel's intent to defraud and abandon his parents. I want to freeze all estate assets immediately, I said. Can we do that? Absolutely. I'll file an emergency petition this afternoon citing elder abuse and questionable document authenticity. Until a judge reviews the case, nothing can be transferred to Daniel. While Patricia prepared the legal paperwork, I met with Linda Chen at the Adult Protective Services office. She had been investigating elder abuse cases for 12 years and had seen patterns like ours before. Your mother exhibits classic controlling behavior often seen in financial abuse cases, Linda explained. She isolated your father from decision-making, manipulated information between family members, and created dependency relationships that served her needs rather than his welfare. But she's also being victimized by Daniel. Sometimes abuse victims become perpetrators as a survival mechanism. Your mother may have started manipulating you and your father as a way to protect herself from Daniel's abandonment. Linda had already interviewed Mrs. Patterson and 2 other neighbors who had witnessed concerning interactions. Mrs. Patterson reported seeing Mom physically guide Dad's hand while he signed papers and hearing arguments where Mom threatened to handle everything herself if Dad didn't cooperate. The most important thing now is ensuring your father's safety and autonomy, Linda said. He needs to be in an environment where he can make decisions without coercion. That afternoon, I returned to my parents' house to find an unexpected scene unfolding in their driveway. A large moving truck was parked on the street, and Daniel was directing 2 men in uniform work shirts as they carried furniture out of the house. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Daniel turned around with a smug grin that immediately reminded me why I had always disliked him even as children. "Protecting my inheritance, big brother. Can't risk anything valuable getting damaged while the old folks sort out their financial mess. You can't remove anything from this house. The estate is frozen pending investigation." Frozen, according to what authority? I handed him a copy of the court injunction Patricia had filed just hours earlier. Daniel's face went pale as he read the legal language declaring all estate assets off limits until further notice. "This is ridiculous. I'm the legal inheritor." "You're the beneficiary of a potentially fraudulent will that's currently under investigation for elder abuse and document forgery." One of the movers, a large man with graying temples, approached us cautiously. "Excuse me, gentlemen, but we need to know if we should continue loading or put everything back." Daniel pulled out his cell phone and started dialing frantically. "This is temporary. My lawyer will straighten this out by tomorrow." "Your lawyer can't override a court order, Daniel." "Watch me, Bert. I've spent years setting this up perfectly. I'm not letting you steal what's rightfully mine." I watched Daniel pace around the driveway, leaving increasingly angry voicemails for some attorney who was probably busy with paying clients. Meanwhile, the movers began the awkward process of carrying furniture back into the house, under the supervision of a court-appointed security officer who had arrived to enforce the injunction. Dad appeared in the doorway wearing pajama pants and a confused expression. "What's happening out here? Why are there strangers in our house?" "Daniel tried to steal your furniture, Dad." "Daniel's here." Dad's face lit up briefly, then clouded with worry. But he said he wasn't coming back until Christmas. Daniel stomped over to Dad with barely contained fury. "Dad, we need to talk privately, right now." "Harold doesn't make private decisions anymore," Mom announced from behind Dad. "Everything goes through me." "Eleanor, shut up for once in your life." "Dad, I need you to sign some papers that will fix this legal problem Bert has created." I stepped between Daniel and Dad. "He's not signing anything without legal representation and medical evaluation." "Since when are you Dad's guardian?" "Since I filed for emergency conservatorship this morning." Daniel's confident facade finally cracked completely. "You filed for what?" "Legal guardianship based on his diminished capacity and evidence of financial exploitation. If the court approves my petition, I'll have legal authority to make decisions about his care, his finances, and his living arrangements." "You can't just take over someone's life like that." "Actually, Daniel, that's exactly what you and Mom have been doing for the past year. The difference is that I'm trying to protect him instead of exploit him." The security officer approached our group with official-looking paperwork. "Mr. Daniel Henderson, I need to inform you that removing any items from this property without court approval constitutes contempt of court and potential theft. The moving company has been instructed to return all removed items immediately." Daniel's phone finally connected to someone important because his entire demeanor changed. He walked several steps away for privacy, but his voice carried clearly across the driveway. "What do you mean the will is being challenged? I paid you $5,000 to make sure it was bulletproof. Yes, I understand elder abuse changes things, but no, I can't afford to fight a court battle right now." When Daniel returned to our group, his shoulders were slumped, and his cocky attitude had evaporated. "This isn't over, Bert." "Actually, it is. Your attorney just explained how expensive it would be to fight legal challenges based on elder abuse evidence. Your inheritance was debt anyway. Walk away now, and maybe we can avoid criminal charges." Daniel's final act of desperation came in the form of a manila envelope he pulled from his jacket pocket. "Dad, I have power of attorney documents here. If you sign them, I can fix all of these problems and protect you from Bert's legal schemes." But Dad had been listening to our entire conversation with growing clarity and awareness. "Daniel, I want you to leave my property right now." "Dad, you don't understand what you're saying?" "I understand that you tried to steal our furniture. I understand that you lied about your business and your money problems. I understand that you promised to take care of us, but planned to abandon us instead." Dad took the power of attorney documents from Daniel's hands and tore them in half. "I also understand that Bert has been the only honest person in this family for a very long time." As the moving truck pulled away empty and Daniel sped off in his rental car, I helped Dad back into the house, where Mom was sitting at the kitchen table crying quietly. "Eleanor." Dad said gently, "We need to tell Bert everything, all of it. No more lies, no more manipulation. If we're going to fix this family, we need to start with the truth." Mom looked up with mascara streaks on her cheeks and fear in her eyes. But for the first time in months, she also looked ready to finally stop fighting. "Where do you want me to start?" The meeting in Prosecutor Amanda Foster's office felt like stepping into a courtroom drama, except the stakes were my family's future rather than entertainment. Amanda was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes and the kind of focused energy that suggested she took elder abuse cases personally. "Mr. Henderson, based on the evidence you've provided, we have grounds for criminal charges against both your mother and your brother. Financial elder abuse, document fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes." She spread photocopies of bank records, loan documents, and forged signatures across her desk like playing cards in a game where everyone had been cheating. However, I want you to understand that prosecuting family members is complicated and emotionally devastating for everyone involved. Before we proceed with charges, I'm willing to offer a settlement conference where we try to resolve this through restitution and oversight, rather than incarceration. What would that look like? Your brother returns all money stolen through fraudulent means, enters financial counseling, and agrees to court supervision. Your mother admits to the forgeries, enters therapy for controlling behaviors, and accepts professional oversight of all financial decisions involving your father. And if they refuse, then we proceed with criminal charges and they risk significant jail time. I thought about Dad sitting in his recliner that morning, looking frail and confused, while trying to remember which pills he was supposed to take. I thought about Mom crying at the kitchen table, finally admitting that her need for control had destroyed our family's trust. I thought about Daniel's panicked phone calls to lawyers who couldn't fix what he had broken. Let's try the settlement conference first. Amanda scheduled the meeting for the following Friday at the law office of Thomas Wagner, the family attorney, who had originally advised against the will changes. The symbolism felt appropriate, returning to the scene of the crime to finally address what had gone wrong. Meanwhile, Patricia Stone had been busy with her own investigations. She called me Wednesday afternoon with news that changed everything. "Bert, you need to sit down for this conversation?" That sounds ominous. Remember how we discussed the possibility that your parents' property might be worth less than expected due to the loans against it? You found out it's worth even less? Actually, I found out it might be worth significantly more than anyone realized. Patricia explained that during her research into the property's title history, she had discovered something that previous appraisals had missed. The original land deed from 1957 included mineral rights that had never been sold or transferred separately from the property. Mineral rights. Oil, natural gas, mineral extraction rights. In Illinois, these rights often get overlooked because they've been dormant for decades. But with new extraction technologies and recent geological surveys, your parents' property sits on top of what appears to be a significant natural gas deposit. How significant? Potentially worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in lease agreements plus ongoing royalty payments if extraction proceeds. I leaned against my kitchen counter trying to process this information. Does Daniel know about this? No one knew about this until I started digging into the title history. The mineral rights weren't mentioned in any of the loan documents, the will, or the recent property assessments. What does this mean for the legal situation? It means that your quick action to freeze the estate assets accidentally preserved rights that would have been transferred to Daniel along with the property. If the will had been executed before we filed our challenges, he would have gained control of mineral rights worth more than everything else combined. Patricia's next call was to the county recorder's office, where she confirmed that the mineral rights were still legally attached to the surface property and had never been severed or sold. She also contacted the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to request geological surveys for our area. Thursday morning, I received a call from Kevin Walsh, a representative of Midwest Energy Partners, a company specializing in natural gas extraction leases. "Mr. Henderson, we've been conducting preliminary surveys in your neighborhood, and we'd like to discuss leasing opportunities for your parents' property." "What kind of leasing opportunities?" "Based on our initial geological assessments, we believe your property sits above a substantial natural gas reserve. We'd be prepared to offer a signing bonus of $50,000 plus annual lease payments of $25,000 for extraction rights plus 12% royalties on any gas actually extracted." "How did you get my contact information?" "We've been working with the county to identify property owners with mineral rights in the target extraction zone. Your name came up as the legal representative for the Henderson property. I'll need to discuss this with my attorney before making any decisions." "Of course. But Mr. Henderson, I should mention that we'll be making similar offers to adjacent properties over the next few weeks. Early agreements typically receive more favorable terms." After Kevin hung up, I called Patricia immediately. They're offering a total of potentially $200,000 or more per year, depending on extraction volumes. Bert, this changes everything. Your parents' financial problems just became irrelevant. Daniel's inheritance just became the opportunity of a lifetime instead of a burden of debt, which he would have completely destroyed through impatience and greed. Exactly. If he had liquidated the property quickly to pay off debts, the mineral rights would have been sold for pennies on the dollar to whoever bought the land. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house to share this news with Dad during one of his increasingly clear and lucid moments. Dad, I need to explain something important about our family's property. I showed him the geological survey reports and the lease offer from Midwest Energy Partners. His eyes widened as he processed the numbers, and for the first time in months, he looked genuinely hopeful. Son, this means we don't have to lose the house. This means you can pay off every debt, keep the house, and have enough money for quality medical care for the rest of your life. And Daniel almost destroyed the most valuable asset our family has ever owned. Dad was quiet for several minutes, staring at the paperwork that represented financial security beyond anything our family had ever imagined. What happens next? Tomorrow we meet with lawyers and hopefully resolve this situation without anyone going to prison. Then we figure out how to rebuild our family relationships on a foundation of honesty instead of manipulation. And you, Bert, what do you get out of this? I thought about that question carefully. 8 years of financial sacrifice, months of emotional manipulation, weeks of legal battles and family drama. What did I really want from this situation? I want a family that tells the truth to each other. I want parents who respect my boundaries. I want a brother who acts like a brother instead of a con artist. And if we can't give you those things, then I want the peace of knowing I tried my best to save something worth saving. Dad reached over and squeezed my hand with surprising strength. We're going to earn back your trust, son. I promise you that. For the first time since this entire nightmare began, I actually believed that promise might be possible. The settlement conference took place in Thomas Wagner's mahogany-paneled conference room on a crisp Friday morning in early November. Everyone involved in our family's financial drama was present. Amanda Foster, representing the state's interest in preventing elder abuse, Patricia Stone. Representing Dad's estate interests, Linda Chen from Adult Protective Services, Daniel, with his attorney Mom with her own lawyer, and Dad sitting beside me, with a clarity in his eyes that had been missing for months. Judge Patricia Collins presided over the proceeding, a distinguished woman in her 60s who specialized in elder law and family disputes. Before we begin discussions of settlement terms, I want to address the validity of the contested will Judge Collins announced. Based on handwriting analysis, medical records indicating mental incapacity during the signing dates, and testimony from multiple witnesses, this court finds that the will changes dated March 15th were executed under fraudulent circumstances and are therefore invalid. Daniel's face went white. Your Honor, I had no knowledge of any fraudulent circumstances. Mr. Daniel Henderson. While you may not have forged the documents yourself, the evidence shows you knowingly provided false financial information to convince elderly family members to make decisions against their best interests. That constitutes financial elder abuse under Illinois law. Amanda Foster opened a thick folder and began outlining the criminal charges that could be filed: 3 counts of financial elder abuse, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud, 1 count of identity theft, and multiple counts of filing false financial statements to obtain loans. However, Amanda continued, the prosecutor's office is willing to consider alternative resolution if certain conditions are met. She outlined the settlement terms. Daniel would immediately repay $87,000, representing all money obtained through fraudulent business claims. Mom would admit to forging Dad's signatures and agree to psychological counseling and financial oversight. Both would be subject to court supervision for 2 years, with any violations resulting in immediate criminal prosecution. Daniel's attorney whispered frantically in his ear before Daniel responded. I don't have $87,000 to repay. Then, you'll need to find a way to earn it, Amanda replied. The court is offering you a payment plan rather than a prison sentence. I suggest you consider that offer carefully. At this point, Patricia Stone requested permission to share new information that had emerged during her title research. Your Honor, during our investigation into the Henderson property, we discovered substantial mineral rights that significantly changed the financial picture for all parties involved. Patricia presented the geological surveys and the lease offer from Midwest Energy Partners. The room fell silent as everyone processed the numbers, signing bonuses, annual lease payments, and royalty percentages that would generate substantial income for decades. This means, Patricia continued, that the Henderson estate is not a burden of debt as previously believed, but actually a valuable asset that could provide financial security for Mr. Harold Henderson's long-term care needs. Daniel's attorney requested a private consultation, and after 15 minutes of hushed conversation, Daniel returned to the table with a different attitude entirely. I want to make a statement to my family. Judge Collins nodded permission. Daniel looked directly at Dad, then at me, his voice shaking with emotion that might have been genuine for the first time in years. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for lying about my finances, for manipulating you into those loans, for planning to abandon you after I got what I wanted. I convinced myself that I was smarter than everyone else, but I was just greedier and more selfish. He turned to me with tears in his eyes. Bert, I spent years resenting you for being the good son, for being the one they could depend on. Instead of trying to be better, I tried to tear you down. I almost destroyed the most valuable thing our family owned because I was too impatient and too arrogant to understand what I was really inheriting. Mom reached across the table to take Dad's hand. Harold, I'm sorry too. I was so afraid of being abandoned that I tried to control everyone and everything. I convinced myself that manipulation was the same as protection, but I was really just making sure everyone would be as miserable and trapped as I felt. She looked at me with genuine remorse. Bert, you deserved parents who appreciated your sacrifice instead of taking advantage of it. You deserved honesty instead of manipulation. I don't know if you can ever forgive us, but I want to spend whatever time we have left proving that we can be better. Judge Collins reviewed the final settlement terms. Daniel would work with a payment plan to repay his debts over 5 years with the mineral rights lease, providing security for those payments. Mom would attend therapy and accept oversight of any financial decisions involving Dad. The original will would be reinstated, dividing assets equally between both sons. Most importantly, Dad would receive professional medical care and legal protection to ensure his autonomy and dignity. Mr. Bert Henderson. Judge Collins addressed me directly. The court recognizes that you've been the victim of systematic financial exploitation by family members who should have protected rather than used you. However, you've also shown remarkable strength in protecting your father and seeking justice through legal rather than retaliatory means. She signed the settlement agreements and declared the matter resolved pending completion of the agreed-upon terms. As we left the courthouse, Kevin Walsh from Midwest Energy Partners was waiting with lease documents and a check for the signing bonus. Dad's signature was steady and clear as he signed the agreements that would transform our family's financial situation overnight. That evening, we gathered at the family house for the first honest conversation we had shared in years. Dad's mind was clearer than it had been in months, possibly because the stress of deception and manipulation had finally been lifted. I want you boys to understand something. Dad said, his voice stronger than I had heard it since before his health problems began. This money doesn't fix what we've done to each other. Money can't rebuild trust that's been broken by lies and selfishness. Daniel nodded, looking humbled and exhausted. I know, Dad. I have a lot of work to do to earn back anyone's respect." "We all do," Mom added quietly. "But here's what I've learned from this whole situation," Dad continued. "A family isn't held together by money or wills or inheritance. It's held together by people choosing every day to treat each other with honesty and kindness." I looked around the room at my parents and brother, seeing them clearly for the first time in years. They weren't the idealized family I had imagined during childhood, but they also weren't beyond redemption if they were willing to do the hard work of earning back trust. "I have conditions," I said. "Family dinners once a month, but only if everyone commits to honest communication. Professional therapy for Mom until her counselor says she's ready to stop. Regular medical checkups for Dad, with a geriatrician who understands his needs. And Daniel, you prove your commitment to this family through actions, not promises." "What about you?" Daniel asked. "What do you commit to?" I thought about that carefully. "I commit to giving you all a chance to be better than you've been. But I also commit to protecting myself if you choose not to take that chance." As I drove home that night, I realized that the victory wasn't about money or legal settlements or even justice being served. The victory was about learning the difference between being loving and being used, between supporting family and enabling destructive behavior. For the first time in 8 years, I felt like I had a family worth fighting for. 6 months later, I sat on the back deck of my new house, watching the sunrise over the small lake that had convinced me to buy this particular property. The house wasn't extravagant, just a modest 3-bedroom ranch with enough space for a workshop and a yard where I could finally plant the vegetable garden I had been planning for years. Sarah's coffee cup clinked against mine as she settled into the chair beside me, her hair still messy from sleep, and her smile more genuine than I remembered from our previous relationship. "Are you nervous about today?" she asked. "A little. It's the first family dinner at the new place." Sarah had returned to my life gradually, cautiously, after learning about the changes I had made in establishing boundaries with my family. She had been impressed not by the mineral rights money, which she barely mentioned, but by my willingness to prioritize our relationship over my family's financial demands. "You've come a long way, Bert. 6 months ago, you would have been terrified of disappointing them. Now you're setting the terms for how they can be part of your life." At 1 o'clock, my family arrived for our monthly Sunday dinner, a tradition we had established as part of the settlement agreements. Dad looked healthier than he had in years, thanks to proper medical care and the removal of financial stress from his life. His dementia symptoms had stabilized with appropriate medication and a structured routine provided by his new live-in care assistant. Mom appeared genuinely different, softer somehow, as if therapy had slowly dissolved the sharp edges of control and manipulation that had defined her personality for so many years. She brought homemade cookies and asked permission before rearranging anything in my kitchen. "Bert, I wanted to thank you for insisting on the counseling," she said while we prepared lunch together. "I never realized how much damage I was doing by trying to control everything and everyone. Dr. Stevens has helped me understand that love isn't the same as possession." Daniel arrived last, looking tired but determined. He had taken a job as a construction foreman in town, earning honest money to repay his debts and rebuild his relationship with our parents. His expensive truck had been sold, replaced with a practical sedan that fit his new budget and priorities. "How's the payment plan going?" I asked him. "Ahead of schedule, actually. Turns out I work harder when I'm earning money instead of stealing it." He smiled ruefully. Who knew? During dinner, we talked about normal family topics: Dad's physical therapy progress, Mom's gardening plans, Daniel's work projects, my relationship with Sarah. The conversation felt natural, unforced, honest, in ways our family interactions had never been before. After the meal, Dad requested a private moment with me on the deck. "Son, I need to tell you something I should have said months ago." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a family of ducks swim across the lake. When I was struggling with the confusion and memory problems, there were moments when I understood exactly what your mother and Daniel were doing. I was too proud to admit I needed help, too scared to confront them about the lies, too ashamed to tell you what was really happening. Dad, you were sick. You can't blame yourself for their choices. I can blame myself for not protecting you sooner. You sacrificed 8 years of your life supporting us, and we repaid that sacrifice with betrayal and manipulation. I thought about those 8 years, the missed opportunities, the lost relationships, the financial stress, the emotional exhaustion of constantly worrying about my parents' welfare. But I also learned something important during those years, Dad. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I learned that I can handle crisis and pressure and still make good decisions. I learned that helping people you love is only meaningful if they appreciate and respect that help. What's the most important thing you learned? I watched the ducks teaching their ducklings to dive for food, a perfect example of family support that builds independence rather than dependency. I learned that real love sometimes requires saying no, that protecting someone can mean refusing to enable their bad choices, that family relationships have to be built on mutual respect, not just obligation and guilt. Dad nodded thoughtfully. And what would you tell someone else who finds themselves in a situation like you were in? I would tell them that being generous with family is beautiful, but being exploited by family is destructive. I would tell them to pay attention to whether their help is building people up or just covering for people's refusal to take responsibility for their own lives. Anything else? I would tell them that you can love people and still protect yourself from their bad decisions, that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential for everyone's well-being. As the afternoon wound down and my family prepared to leave, Mom hugged me with the kind of warmth I remembered from childhood before fear and manipulation had poisoned our relationship. "Thank you for not giving up on us completely," she whispered. "Thank you for finally becoming people worth not giving up on," I replied. Daniel shook my hand firmly, looking me directly in the eyes. "I know I have years of work ahead to earn back your trust, but I want you to know that I finally understand what family loyalty actually means." "What does it mean?" "It means supporting each other's growth and happiness, not enabling each other's weaknesses and fears." After they left, Sarah and I cleaned up the kitchen together, working in the comfortable rhythm of a partnership built on mutual respect, rather than need or obligation. "You know what I'm most proud of," Sarah said as we finished washing dishes. "What?" "You didn't just get justice for yourself, you saved your whole family from destroying themselves." That night, as I lay in bed in my own house, surrounded by my own furniture, living according to my own priorities, I reflected on the most important lesson this entire experience had taught me. Love isn't about how much you're willing to sacrifice for someone. Love is about helping someone become the best version of themselves, even when that requires difficult conversations, firm boundaries, and the courage to let them face the consequences of their own choices. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for family is refuse to enable their worst instincts. Sometimes protecting yourself is the first step toward protecting everyone else. My family had almost destroyed itself through greed, manipulation, and fear. But by refusing to continue enabling those destructive patterns, I had accidentally created space for all of us to learn healthier ways of relating to each other. The mineral rights money was nice, but the real treasure was discovering that I could be part of a family without losing myself in the process. Before I close this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where family members expected your endless support without offering appreciation or respect in return? How do you balance loyalty with self-protection? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others find it. Family manipulation is more common than many people realize, and sharing these experiences helps everyone recognize unhealthy patterns before they cause lasting damage. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about family relationships, personal growth, and finding the courage to set healthy boundaries with the people we love. And please share this story with anyone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the strength to create the honest, respectful family relationships you deserve.